So the International Space Station is actually an incredible achievement. It's a momentous milestone, not just in the history of human spaceflight, but in a much larger sense in the history of humankind. It is the biggest man-made object that was ever put into space. It has a total mass of about 450 tons, and if you looked at it from above, it would occupy the same surface of a football field. It is also the result of an incredible international cooperation. The United States, Russia, a few European countries represented by the European Space Agency, as well as Japan and Canada, have set together to put in space an object that has absolutely no precedent in history. The International Space Station is by and large complete in its assembly, and what we are facing now is a period of steady utilization. Utilization means that the astronauts on board the ISS can finally focus not just on building the station and putting the pieces together, but in performing the tasks the space station was designed for. So every day they perform amazing science. They can do public relations and outreach to connect people to the reality of space. They can test new technologies that can be used for exploration and, for instance, for the next step of humankind into outer space. And in general, the ISS is the way we are acquiring knowledge and experience about how to live and work in space. Without programs like this, without having a permanent occupation of space, the humankind will be always just relegated to its own cradle, to use Tsiolkovsky's word. And this is a phase that hopefully we will move on from, and the ISS is actually one of the stepping stones in that direction. In a normal situation, there are 6 astronauts and cosmonauts on board the International Space Station. The ISS flies at the speed of 7.5 kilometers per second, and the normal day on board the ISS is, well, very comfortable for us controlling the station from Europe. The station works on GMT time. The astronauts normally wake up around 6 in the morning and go to sleep around 21:30. And during the day, they have to perform science, they have to perform system maintenance. Obviously, the station is in space since a very long time. The first module was first put in space on November 20, 1998. It was the Zarya module. So obviously, systems do fail and they do require maintenance. And also, the astronauts simply live in space. They do experiments on themselves, on how their physiology changes because of the exposure to microgravity. And also, which is extremely important, they have to exercise quite a bit. 2.5 hours per day are dedicated to exercise, because otherwise, after 6 months of weightlessness, their body wouldn't be able to readapt efficiently to normal life on Earth. My ideal scenario would be to build up an infrastructure that is progressively more complex, to allow not just a one-time mission into space, but to allow a real and true utilization of space. The ISS, as I said, is a first stepping stone in that side, but also what we need to achieve is a sharp reduction in the cost of access to space. We need to make sure that we are able to ship equipment and astronauts back and forth space on a much more affordable basis than we have right now. And this will open the gate for all sorts of possibilities. This will open the gate for building complex infrastructures that could be, for instance, shipyards for spaceships that could go beyond Earth orbit and explore the solar system. This could be communication networks that will allow efficient and high data rate communication between, for instance, Earth and the Moon. What I would really strive for is to build step by step all the infrastructure that we actually need to finally explore space and to be inhabitants of outer space in its full right, not just tourists or guests or people who are in space just with one foot. Well, I wouldn't say that the profession of being an astronaut is definitely in the lowest rankings, but it is definitely true that the interest of the public has changed sharply since 1969 and human missions to the Moon. The problem is that we have shown what we could do. We have shown how in a very short period of time we could achieve amazing goals, and then we have gotten shy. Then we haven't been brave enough, we didn't put enough resources into making the next logical steps from that moon exploration. That is probably one of the reasons the public lost interest. And in my opinion, if we want to re-engage the public, we need to show a coherent plan of exploration. We want to clearly show what we want to do. We need to set to ourselves a meaningful objective, an objective that comparatively is as complex and as difficult as reaching the moon in the 1960s, and we have to set through this plan without being swayed by changes in governments and economical crisis and all the other geopolitical factors that have come into play. It is always much better to be an optimist. Follow science, follow your dreams, study, apply yourself. Don't just settle for what you have, always strive for more. And keep in mind the general good of society, not just the personal gain for yourself.